Every man has felt it. You walk in steady, but the moment she smiles, your ground slips. You start explaining too much, asking safe questions, laughing too quickly, and in her eyes, you're no longer a man, you're an applicant. Machiavelli warned, the one who begs for presence loses it. In this video, you'll see 6 dark laws that stop you from handing her the frame and make her step into yours. 1. Radiate energy before words. The moment you try too hard to impress, you already lose. Think of the last time you greeted a woman you liked. Your voice went slightly higher, your shoulders tightened, and you leaned in as if her reaction could decide your worth. That tiny shift, barely noticed by you, decides everything for her. She doesn't hear your words first. She feels your energy. And if that energy is needy, the game is over before it begins. Michael, 29, worked in IT support in Austin. At a networking event, he met Anna, a friend of a colleague. She asked a simple question. "So, what do you do?" He straightened quickly, but then over-explained, listing every detail of his role, his certifications, his future goals. His voice sped up and his laugh slipped out too often. Anna smiled politely, but halfway through she checked her phone. When another guy walked by with a calm nod and a confident silence, her eyes followed him. Michael kept talking, but he already knew he was background noise. When was the last time her eyes drifted to another man while you kept talking? Be honest, and I will show you how to flip that silence into gravity. Type a few words or drop a green check right now. This is the collapse most men never see. They think their mistake was in the words they chose. The truth? The damage was done the moment they showed nervous energy. Presence is judged in seconds, before your story, before your jokes, before your effort. A woman decides if you are worth listening to based on how you carry yourself in silence. Machiavelli warned that people judge more by what they see than what they hear. Your posture speaks before your mouth opens. Your eye contact tells her if you respect yourself or if you're begging for hers. Your stillness, unbroken by nervous laughter or rushed words, signals that your value does not depend on approval. These are not tricks, they are primal cues. They decide respect before attraction has a chance to grow. What if the silence you are so afraid of is the very thing that makes her lean closer? Michael thought enthusiasm would charm her. She read it as insecurity. He thought rapid answers would show confidence. She felt them as desperation. He thought constant engagement would keep her attention. In truth, it drained the mystery that could have held it. The same actions he believed would win her exposed his weakness. He believed respect had to be earned through effort, but presence demands respect without asking. When a man radiates calm strength, people sense it before he says a word. His spine does not fold forward, his gaze does not retreat, his voice does not rush. That energy says, "I am enough." And that unspoken message makes others adjust to him instead of the other way around. Try this tonight. Walk into a room, shoulders back, chin level, and speak slower than feels comfortable. Do not rush to fill the silence. Notice how people wait. Notice how her eyes search yours, not because of what you said, but because you refuse to collapse. That pause is power. That scarcity of words makes everything else you say land with weight. If this feels unnatural at first, good. It means you're breaking the pattern that has kept you invisible. Stay with it, because what comes next will reveal the second law. Why authenticity itself is not weakness, but the sharpest armor you can wear. Skip ahead, and you'll keep performing in someone else's play. Stay, and you'll learn how honesty, raw and unpolished, becomes a weapon no one can twist against you. 2. Authenticity as strategy. She laughed at the joke. You thought you won her attention, but the truth is brutal. She was laughing at the act, not the man. The moment the mask slips, the illusion dies. That is why the more you perform, the faster she loses respect. Charm is not connection. Tricks are not attraction. And every time you try too hard, she sees it for what it is: desperation wearing a smile. Daniel, 34, worked in marketing in Boston. He was known for being the fun guy, always a punchline ready, always exaggerating stories just to get people to laugh. On dates, he leaned on that role even harder. At first, women seemed impressed, until the third or fourth time. One night, he sat across from a woman at a quiet Italian restaurant. He launched into another rehearsed story about his wild trip to Miami. She smirked, stirred her drink, and said softly, "You don't have to try this hard, you know." He froze. The laughter he thought was pulling her closer had been pushing her away. Her tone was not cruel, but it stripped him bare. For the first time, he realized his performance was nothing more than background noise. He left the dinner with a sinking chest, wondering if anyone had ever really seen him. Not the mask, but him. That emptiness followed him for days. Machiavelli warned that men who reveal themselves too easily surrender their power. But here is the paradox: hiding behind tactics is also a form of surrender. Because when your words do not align with your reality, you give her the script. You let her decide which parts of you are real and which are disposable. That is why authenticity is not softness, it is armor. The man who speaks plainly, whose actions match his speech, cannot be bent. He is like a mirror, simple, unshakable, impossible to twist. And what comes next is more dangerous than rejection. It is the quiet erosion of respect, when every move you make smells of effort. He thought playing roles kept her interested. She only grew bored. He thought humor would mask his fear. She sensed it and pulled back. He thought charm was the currency of attraction. She saw it as cheap. In the end, he did not lose her because he was too honest. He lost her because he was never real at all. How many moments in your own life were wasted trying to be interesting, when presence itself was enough? Was it enough? Next time you feel the urge to perform, will you hold still or act the clown again? If you dare, say it, and I will show you how silence becomes attraction. One word or a fire emoji is enough. Tonight, resist the urge to overperform. Do not fill silence with another line. Do not invent another story. Let stillness test her interest. If she leans in, you will know she is seeing you. If she pulls away, you will know faster than months of performance ever could. And in that moment, you are the one filtering, not her. Skip this and you will keep playing the clown in someone else's theater, but watch what comes next, and you will learn the law that separates men who beg for affection from men who hold the line. 3. Never beg, hold the line. She pulled away slightly. You leaned forward. She went quiet. You filled the silence, and in that moment she knew, not that you cared, but that you feared losing her. That single fear destroyed everything. The more you reach, the more she recoils. The more you beg, the more she tests. And the more you fold, the more she sees through you. Attraction does not die from anger, it dies from pity. Marcus was 37, a financial advisor in Denver. He had built a comfortable life, steady career, good income, yet in love, he kept losing ground. With Claire, a woman he dated for 6 months, the cracks showed one evening at her apartment. She said sharply, "I need space tonight, I'm tired." His chest tightened. He offered to bring food, to leave flowers, to stay quiet in the living room. She looked at him blankly and said, "Why do you make everything heavier than it is?" That sentence cut through him like ice. In his mind, every offer was proof of devotion. In her eyes, every offer was a weight she did not ask for. Days later, another test came. She mentioned casually that another man from work had asked her for coffee. Instead of shrugging, Marcus panicked. He asked questions, demanded clarity, even promised he would be better. That night, she kissed him without warmth. 2 weeks later, she left. He sat alone in his kitchen, phone silent, replaying the memory of her last look. Not cruel, not angry, just indifferent. Nothing shatters a man faster than realizing his begging did not even buy resentment. Only silence. When did you last beg her to stay only to watch respect die in her eyes? Do not lie. I will show you why that collapse erased desire. Write a few words or drop an X so others can see it too. Machiavelli warned that pity is the death of respect. The man who cannot say no with calm conviction becomes forgettable. Pressure is not the enemy, pressure is the test. The one who folds under it shows he was never strong to begin with. Attraction is not born from what you give away, it is born from what you refuse to surrender. Like a fortress unshaken by storm, the man who holds his line commands presence without raising his voice. What comes next is not cruelty. It is the quiet law of survival in love. Without boundaries, desire collapses into contempt. He thought flexibility proved devotion. She read it as weakness. He thought giving in would buy closeness. She only felt distance. He thought every yes was loyalty. She saw it as proof he could not stand alone. The harder he tried to prove himself, the more invisible he became. The question lingers. How much of what was given was love, and how much was fear of losing it? Tonight, do one thing differently. When the test comes, when she pushes, when she pauses, when she demands, do not chase, do not explain, say less, and mean it. Let her feel the weight of silence. If the bond is real, it will hold. If it is not, better to see it break early than to waste years begging for something that was never yours. And if fear rises, remember, the man who can stay calm in the storm is the one who earns the harbor. Ignore this and the pattern repeats. You will keep surrendering your ground until nothing remains. But the next part reveals the anchor that makes power unshakable. Not through games, not through cruelty, but through respect. 4. Respect as the anchor. She smiled at his confidence in the beginning, but weeks later her eyes carried something colder, permission to overlook him. What died first was not her affection, it was respect. And when respect disappears, attraction does not crash in fire. It erodes in silence, in the way she no longer listens, in the way her gaze moves past him as if he were air. Ethan, 32, a financial advisor in Phoenix, believed compromise was the glue of love. At first, Mia admired his stability, the way he stood tall at work and spoke with certainty, yet at home small fractures revealed the truth. One Sunday brunch she teased, "You always say whatever I prefer." He laughed lightly, thinking that flexibility showed care. Another night she arrived half an hour late. He waved it off with, "It's fine, don't worry." She smiled faintly, but the look in her eyes was not gratitude, it was calculation, a silent recognition that his boundaries could be pushed without consequence. Weeks later, at a colleague's dinner, she interrupted him mid-story and corrected him before everyone. The table laughed. He froze. Her eyes met his, not in anger, but in confirmation. The man she once measured against had become agreeable, predictable. On the drive home, the words landed like stone. "You're just too easy." It was not a critique, it was the quiet funeral of respect. When did you last laugh it off while she cut you down in public? If you dare, share it and I will show you how to turn that silence into weight. One word or a clock emoji is enough, type it now. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler who strives too hard to please soon earns contempt instead of loyalty. Respect is not given, it is enforced by presence. The man who treats himself as equal forces others to do the same. The man who bends for harmony becomes a servant, and servants are always exchanged. Respect is the anchor. Without it, every gesture is cheap. With it, even silence carries weight. Soon you will see why holding respect is not the end of power, it is only the ground. The next move is framing reality itself. He thought avoiding conflict created peace. She saw surrender. He thought constant reassurance proved devotion. She saw suffocation. He thought saying yes kept harmony. She saw collapse. When the final glance came, she did not see a partner. She saw a man who had already folded. How many men live the same loop? believing kindness secures loyalty, only to find that loyalty starves without respect. The action is simple but sharp. When plans change, do not chase to adjust. When interrupted, finish your sentence calmly. When teased, smile, but do not fold. If fear rises, remember Machiavelli's cold lesson: better respected in silence than pitied in words. When you hold that line, you will notice something shift. People leaning in, not because they want comfort, but because they measure themselves against your steadiness. Walk away now and the cycle repeats, giving, bending, losing. But stay, and the next law reveals the pivot. Respect without control is fragile. Machiavelli's Law 5 exposes the secret of framing. Miss it, and even the respect you earn will be hijacked. Learn it, and you no longer just hold the anchor, you command the entire stage. 5. Control the frame. The moment she interrupted you mid-sentence and you let it slide was the moment the frame shifted. Not because she wanted to hurt you, but because silence in that moment told her you had surrendered. It was not the words you lost. It was the right to set the stage. David, 34, a software engineer in Denver, thought that being easygoing made him likable. On his 4th date with Melissa, she asked, "Where should we eat?" He replied, "Wherever you like." She chose, paid little attention through dinner, and by dessert she was texting. At work, David had learned to lead meetings. He framed discussions, directed timelines, closed deals. But with Melissa, he gave away the same authority he guarded in business. Weeks later, at a friend's birthday, she cut into his story, correcting details as if his voice carried no weight. He chuckled nervously, letting it pass. Inside, he felt himself shrink. His chest burned, not from anger, but from the hollow knowledge that the group no longer looked at him as the man defining the room. That collapse did not come from betrayal. It came from one surrender too many. If you could whisper one command before letting her set the frame, what would you say? Be ruthless and I will rewrite it in Machiavelli's voice. One short line or the book emoji is enough. Machiavelli wrote that rulers must be both lion and fox, strong enough to crush resistance, cunning enough to avoid traps. The frame is the trap of desire. Whoever controls it dictates reality. A single question, a pause held longer than comfort, or a redirection of topic is not small talk, it is strategy. Control the frame, and you control the bond. Lose it, and you become an actor reading someone else's script. Up next, how mystery bends perception, and how to weaponize it without saying a word. He thought letting her decide showed respect. She read it as weakness. He thought silence avoided conflict. She read it as absence of strength. He thought following her lead proved love. She felt only the weight of boredom. In the mirror of his story lies the uncomfortable question: how much of presence is clarity, and how much is surrender? Start with one adjustment today. Do not rush to answer when interrupted. Hold steady. Let silence grow until the room shifts back toward you. If it feels uncomfortable, that is the signal you are regaining ground. Soon you will notice people leaning in, not to interrupt further, but to understand the gravity of what you have not yet said. Leave now and you will keep surrendering frames until your presence dissolves into background noise. Stay, and the next law, play the long game, will show why true power is never about a single dinner, a single story, or a single silence. It is the patient strategy that makes a man unforgettable long after the moment fades. 6. Play the long game. The night she said forever, she meant the moment. That is the cruelty most men never see until it is too late. They mistake a spark for a flame that will never burn out. They believe speed is devotion when in truth, speed is the fastest path to collapse. What if what she really tests is not how much you give now, but how long you can endure when the thrill fades? Ethan was 40, a contractor in Denver who had built his life on grit and consistency. When he met Laura, their first months were a storm of passion. Weekend trips, daily calls, endless plans. He thought intensity was proof of permanence. He thought her laughter at midnight was a contract no time could break. But then came the shift. She stopped asking about his day. She pulled away when he reached for her hand in the grocery store one evening as he described his vision of building a new home for them. She simply said, "You don't have to think that far ahead." Her words cut deeper than rejection. They revealed what he refused to see. She had been living in moments, not years. His investment in forever became her reason to retreat. The man who gave everything up front became predictable, already conquered. He mistook urgency for strength, and urgency turned into his undoing. Machiavelli knew that fortune belongs to those who play the long game. Desire is not won in a night. It is tested across silence, distance, and the ability to hold back when others rush forward. The man who spreads his values slowly builds pressure like a tide. He becomes the one who cannot be replaced because mystery never runs out and patience turns into gravity. A mask dropped too early ends the play, but a mask lifted piece by piece keeps the audience addicted. Up next, you will see why fading is not weakness. It is the very rhythm that makes attachment inevitable. He thought total access was proof of love. She read it as the end of the chase. He thought devotion meant constant presence. She saw it as the collapse of mystery. He thought giving everything early would secure her heart. She saw a man who no longer needed to be discovered. And the silent question remains: how much of what is offered is love, and how much is fear of being forgotten? What is one secret you will keep this week so she leans in instead of pulling away? If you dare, declare it, and I will give you the strategy to turn patience into power. One word or the shield emoji is enough. Drop it now. Here is the adjustment. Do not reveal everything today. Hold back one detail, one plan, one promise. Let silence stretch without rushing to fill it. That discomfort you feel is not danger. It is the signal that you are reclaiming leverage. Wait, and you will notice the change. People leaning in, not because you are louder, but because your absence makes the meaning heavier. Skip the next part, and you will remain trapped in short games that end before they begin. But stay, because the conclusion shows how all 6 laws fuse into one code. Ignore it, and you will keep giving everything for nothing. Remember only as a phase, never as a man who could not be replaced. This is the moment where everything comes full circle. What you have just heard was never about chasing shortcuts or polishing fake charm. It was about reclaiming the ground under your own feet. Each law revealed the same truth. When you hold the frame, when you slow down, when you give less than they expect, you rise above the games. Less chasing becomes more respect. Less performance becomes more desire. And this is not about becoming cold or heartless. It is about becoming untouchable. You no longer need to explain to be understood. You no longer need to beg to be chosen. When you stop bleeding value into every interaction, people feel the weight of your presence without you lifting a finger. That is where power and peace live together. One of our subscribers, Daniel, a 36-year-old engineer from Dallas, once wrote to us. He said he was always the man who tried too hard, sending long texts, proving his worth with gifts, bending his schedule to fit hers. Every time, the women he wanted most slipped away. After watching these lessons, he stopped explaining, stopped rushing, and started leading. Within months, the dynamic shifted. So set it, the same woman who once ignored his calls was now the one rearranging her time to meet him. Daniel told us, "The day I stopped trying to prove myself was the day I finally felt respected." You could be next. Do not let another conversation drain your strength. Subscribe now, because the transformation begins in silence, but it reshapes everything you thought you knew about love, respect, and power.